Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Weekly, episode 30, season 4. And oh, my battery level's low. Okay, never mind. Sorry, my bad. Um, and
Dedication,
um,
baby.
we are talking Apple. And this week we have a special guest, someone who was at the iPhone X. Yes, I am calling it X. iPhone X and iPhone 8 events. One and only Soldier Knows Best. How's it going, man?
Good, man. I am back from drinking the apple juice for a couple days, and excited to be here, man.
Cool. And of course, we have our usual hosts, minus Sam. Starting off with Mr. Warren Bowman. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Let's do this.
Okay, and of course, Mr. Juan Bagnell, the one who brings the tempered spirit, to the crew, is what people say. That means that,
is that what people are saying? I was
Behind,
the one who would get all cranky and loud with the rest of you. I
they
didn't
all say that you were like the calm one.
They're wrong. I love it.
Oh yeah, and there he is, Sam. How's it going, man? Sam's joined us, although he's a little pixelated.
He doesn't have his new. He doesn't have his new like angle.
Yeah, his camera. Sam, we don't like his camera angle, man. It's not cool. We like the other one. You need to switch back.
Desk has changed, man. I have to clean a bunch of things up on my desk. I have to redo the whole desk. So
That you might want to switch it
you
back.
guys are stuck with this for today. You guys are stuck with this.
All right, cool. So let's start off this week. Apple announced three devices, actually a bunch of devices, but the two main ones, of course, are the iPhone 8, iPhone 8 Plus, which is one SKU, and the iPhone 10, which I will be calling X in this video because there will be an iPhone 9 next year. So what's the point of calling it 10? But I wanted to first start off with Mark, since you were at the press event, you got to drink the Kool-Aid, you got to experience all that stuff there. What did you think of the event first, and then also talk about the devices?
Yeah, I mean, the event was it's the first on the new Apple campus, Apple Park. So it was set up very nice. I mean, of course, they had all the amenities and things like that you probably come to expect from these events. And the Steve Jobs Theater itself is a pretty nice thing. It's pretty cool that they had a lot of us waiting before the actual event started up top, and then the actual event was held downstairs in the theater. Pretty nice theater, great projection screen, and also to probably the best product demo area that all of us press like to get our hands on. Well lit, plenty of room, plenty of products out there. So hopefully it's not my last time going out there, but it was pretty one of the best setup events, I would say.
All right, cool. I mean, yeah, we're glad to see you there. First time, and I was a little shocked. But it's cool. So what do you think about? So what are your thoughts? iPhone X, iPhone 8. Which are you going to get? I know you're probably going to get both, but if you had to pick one, which would you get?
Yeah, I'm going to get both, but I would probably go with the iPhone 10. That's going to be the one that's kind of the standard. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to do the same thing. I was kind of surprised with the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus ordering process went very smooth. So maybe a lot of people waiting for the 10. But yeah, I think the iPhone 10, it's the future of the iPhones, but I don't think Apple can make the claim of it's the future of smartphones because it doesn't best out what current phones and phones of the past have already done. So I think it was still just missing one thing there to kind of make it very unique, to really kind of push the standard to make people really want to be surprised by it. But in that, I mean, solid, they're catching up on a lot of things, and it's just closing that gap to the argument that people have with Android phones versus iPhones. They're slowly closing that gap up with wireless charging and all the other stuff.
Okay, cool. Juan, and I saw you shaking your head there. Thoughts? iPhone X, 10, 8 Plus.
Was I shaking my head?
Yeah, you were like, mm-hmm.
Oh, I was nodding along. Yeah, because I was like, I was agreeing with him.
I mean, your camera is very crisp, man. So we can see
I gotta be careful what I do.
Shaking your head in full bouquet.
I gotta just mime it whenever I'm not talking. No, so I completely agree with Mark's assessment, especially from him being on the ground. Excuse me, sorry, and I'm gonna try not to cough in the mic like that. There's a lot going on here. There are a lot of moving parts for Apple. This is the biggest design and hardware change this company has ever tried to execute. And again, if you're an Android fan, there's nothing here to draw you away from the team that you like. What's exciting is this is one of the biggest changes and upgrades for iOS users. And so if we can address some of the gap in the market in features and in hardware and in technologies, then that's just a boon for Apple users, and it helps us tangentially by increasing competition. I don't feel like Android manufacturers have really felt significant pressure from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 7. You know, that where Apple has been in the market has felt a little stagnant. So now this will hopefully get things cooking again. I don't know if we want to talk about it more specifically, but for me, the phones really didn't matter. What mattered was augmented reality. So to Soldier's point, you know, he was looking for that one thing. This is actually, I think AR and AR kit could be the one thing that really does actually push Apple over the edge here. The potential for future services for augmented reality, and then gathering that data to then hopefully start moving that experience to other products like heads-up displays or smart glasses is really what's exciting about what Apple could do here. I mean, to a large point for a lot of companies, the phones don't really matter as what you can do on the phones. So that to me was the big takeaway. That to me was, this is something that could be really exciting.
All right, Sam.
It was exciting in a way. I guess the presentation was very interesting. I like what they did with the what's it called now? The animojis. That was fun and totally useless. But it's nothing really, from my point of view, nothing really stood out. If it's a question between the 8 and the 10, it's obviously most people are going to go for the 10, even with the price difference. The 10 just offers you so much more than the 8 does. And from a design standpoint, I think the 10, it's exactly where Apple should have been like a few generations ago. I think I said this when the Note 7 came out, that basically Samsung out-Appled Apple. Apple should have gotten rid of the home button a long time ago. And the fact that they're finally doing this now, to me, it's a little too little too late. We've already started seeing phones do that. They didn't announce anything, or they didn't do anything on that stage that other companies haven't really done, with the exception of the facial recognition, which I think, like I said with the Animoji joke, I think it's really pointless at this time, because they really didn't make a case for the facial recognition. We'll see after people get their hands on it what they can actually do with the X. But I'm more looking forward to the X than I am to the 8, and I think everybody else probably would be.
Warren, before you start, I wanted to also just add in that whole fiasco that you brought up, at least to my attention, on fast charging. We know the iPhone has wireless charging, which is great. It's a great feature to add. And Apple kind of conveniently just didn't mention that they had fast charging until you go through the spec list. And of course,
they put it up on the screen during the presentation. It was
it?
at the bottom of the list, right above wireless charging. They just didn't mention it.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, they didn't mention it. They threw it in there, but just didn't mention it. And of course, we know why, because to get fast charging requires an extra dropping of cash for that. So, Warren, I want you to just give me your thoughts.
Actually, before we jump to Warren, I just want to mention one thing that a lot of people were noticing online before. I think not enough people are covering. If you watch a full screen video on that device, on the 10, you will be getting a lot of obstruction from where your microphone actually, I mean, from where your speakers
the front facing camera.
I believe that's called the iPhone unibrow.
Oh yeah, it's a feature. It's a feature. Just way to put it out there. Just way to put it out there, because a lot of the unibrow covering this. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Warren, can you give me your thoughts on that as you move on to just the fast charging fiasco?
Anybody else want to jump in before I can talk?
Okay, before Warren says
I do want to talk about the philosophy of.
Wait, Warren, you asked, man. You asked.
Oh, okay. So where do I start here? As far as the devices, the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10, I mean, it's good to see them finally catching up to the rest of the hardware manufacturers out there and really giving features that people have enjoyed on other phones for not just like a year or two. This is probably like 4 or 5 years of features that they're now just really throwing into the new iPhone 8 and iPhone 10. So that's a good thing that they're doing. Some things I don't understand is I'm looking at the design of the iPhone 10 and the nice little cutout unibrow divot that they put on top of the phone. There's no way in hell Steve Jobs would ever let a phone like that exist with that type of design on a screen. That is just bad, considering that there's not one manufacturer out there that designs their front sensors that way that obstructs the screen. But the fact that they had it up there, proudly show that they had that up there, and acted like it was nothing wrong with it, is troubling for, I think, for Apple fans in the future when it comes to design. When you're seeing nonsense like that, that's just a bad look. You can design those sensors in a way. Even if you got to thicken the bezels, fine, make thicker bezels, but just don't obstruct from the now AMOLED display that you have in there. And it just didn't make any sense that they do that. Now let's go on to this fast charging bullshit. These assholes are charging $85 for you to fast charge your phone. They're not going to include it in the box that every manufacturer has done ever. No, you got to go pay to charge your iPhone small ass battery faster. What kind of logic is that? What is that saying? They've already accessorized headphone jacks, so now they're going to accessorize charging. What's the next iPhone going to come with? What's it going to miss? You're going to have to buy the screen, camera optional. Like, it's just ridiculous. And anyone that is an Apple fan that lets that slide is ridiculous. Don't tell me the whole excuse of, well, it's a premium product and you got to pay for the premium features. Screw you. Get that out your head. That's stupid. The fact that you're getting charged that and you're allowing them to do that is ridiculous. You're not challenging Apple to be better. Because trust me, if Samsung tried to do this, every Samsung fan would be on their ass in a second. If anyone else tried to do this, if the LG, anyone tried to pull that same trick, you would see backlash. But because Apple fans drink so much Kool-Aid and so far up the butt of Apple that they refuse to look outside of it and realize that they're getting screwed over. And they're just saying, well, getting screwed over is a feature apparently. So you pay $1,000 for that feature then.
Come on. All right. So Mark.
I feel like Mark has some thoughts.
Yeah.
I had to drop. I couldn't be soft with this. It's got to be real.
Yeah, he's 100%. He's 100% right about it's total nonsense that they didn't include the proper cables and adapter to be able to fast charge. Now, I think people don't know about it. I think that's one of the things that people don't know. They didn't make a big deal about it. And the word is going to get out, especially of people talking about it. But yeah, Apple is, they always have an Apple tax, but in this case, it's overboard. It's completely overboard.
Now, Mark, I was actually hoping to pick your brain on something because I made a joke about the philosophy of design, but the iPhone 10 took me a little by surprise. And we're going to make a lot of jokes about the cutout or the unibrow or anything, but this is one of the first Apple products that I can think of that they've really walked away from the idea of symmetry. I think it started with the iPhone 6 having a protruding camera bulge, like you lie it flat on a table and it'll wobble. That to me is a very un-Steve Jobs-like way to make a phone. Like I would imagine there would be a story of Steve Jobs like, it's broken, it's wobbling on a table. But now we're looking at something where there's an asymmetry to the screen. What do you think I'm sitting here making you defend Apple fans, and I apologize for that. What do you think that an Apple fans reaction to that might be? Do you think this is one of those things that they'll like the iPhone 10 despite this cutout, like we're just going to learn to live with it? Or do you think it really brings a design accent that people are going to be proud to show off?
Yeah, I think I think most people aren't like analyzing the device like we will be, so they're probably just like, oh, it's a cutout, and I don't think no matter what iOS and what OS that you like, you're just not going to like the cutout. Now, I mean, I think it started with the doggone Apple Pencil and the way you got to charge that damn thing, and also the mouse where you got to sit on the side. Like, I think it started there when I'm like, okay, now this is you're totally going a different way, which in some ways is good that they're stepping out of kind of the way Steve used to do things. But yeah, in this design aspect, I'm kind of curious their choices with those couple of things. Now, but the notch, I don't like it. But with the True View camera, I think that what they're doing in there is what no other company has done. I mean, what they're trying to do with that front-facing camera and the capabilities of that, eventually they want to get to the point where they already filed patents where they can put all that stuff under the display. Either they ran out of time, either they just like, whatever, you're going to buy it anyway. But I think this is going to be something we're going to have a year or two probably dealing with that notch, but then they'll find a way to put it under the display.
Well, I mean, but that's to me what's so interesting though, is that normally, because I completely agree with you, the function of what they're trying to do from the font, they showed it off with the frivolity of something like Animoji, but there are significant ideas or significant impacts to services that we could start using that hardware for. What takes me by surprise is Apple in the past has really built a reputation of being able to blend the form around the function. And here it's a clear indication, like they kind of just stapled it on there. Yeah. The function overrides the form of the device. And that's something that we very rarely see from this manufacturer.
Yeah, and they could have did it better, especially getting rid of the home button. They could have just made that like Warren said, made the bells at the top just a little bit bigger.
And affected anything. I mean, if you would have brought that phone to Steve Jobs, he'd have flipped the table and fired 3 people.
Well, but you know, somewhere there's an LG or a Samsung designer that's feeling really flattered right now that Apple worked for years on this, and that's what they arrived at. It's kind of like a V30, but with a unibrow.
Years.
Yeah, Sam, what about the loss of Touch ID? That to me would be a bigger impact on people than anything else.
I think as much as people say they use Touch ID, from what I could tell from supporting users that use iPhones, so many of them use pins. And they're so used to just typing in their PIN number so fast, they almost skip Touch ID unless they're prompted for it, like when they're downloading an app or something like that.
See, here's the thing that I find interesting, though, is the change to the UI on the 10. You know, just the swiping up to go home. Because, you know, iPhone users have a certain, if you give an iPhone user an Android phone, they become lost almost instantly. You know, so I'm wondering how that will affect them of swiping up to go home, swiping and hold, and then the fact that you have to go to 2 corners to do 2 things. You know, there's the notifications, and then there's the action center on the right, and notifications on the left. You know, that kind of thing. I'm just wondering how iOS users will take to that, because it's going to be.
Don't talk about like iOS users like they're stupid. Come on.
No, I'm not saying they're stupid. I'm not saying they're stupid.
They'll include the little pamphlet inside of there, and they'll have.
No, that's actually
in the beginning.
No one reads that. But that's actually something that's really important. And we had a representative from AARP on our podcast a couple weeks back talking about design, and he was really crediting one of the great hallmarks of why iOS devices are so recommended, especially for the elderly or for people with disabilities, has been this consistency of approach. Like, you could take someone who was using the very first generation iPhone, give them an iPhone 7, and there's very little learning curve in getting used to that new device. If you give someone a Galaxy S5 and you move them to a Galaxy S7, there are significant changes just for the sake of change. Not necessarily to bring a better experience, just a different experience for these Android products. So, I mean, if we're really looking at how people acclimate and how people get used to things, I'll be really curious, because gesture-heavy scenarios tend to not, people don't tend to respond well to them. The first time a gesture fails, as opposed to pushing a button with a tactile feedback, people will usually give up on that gesture and just go back to an older interface. But here, Apple's completely gotten rid of the old way to do something that they used to rely on.
Well, yeah, and I would go with that. But I think if you're buying an iPhone 10, you know it doesn't have a home button. You know it's using Face ID. You know, and the fact that they have the iPhone 8 Plus, if you're in a little bit intimidated by that, you're just going to probably get one of those phones. And I think that Apple does a great job at kind of explaining their new features better than other companies. They go into detail about what Face ID is going to be about, how Face Unlock is going to happen, and also too with the tutorials on how to actually use a phone. I think they're better than most companies. So I don't think it's that big of a change. I mean, it's a few new gestures. I think, again, the elderly, yeah, they may have some problems, but I mean,
I'll agree with you that they explain well, but I think a few new gestures is kind of, it's like the one primary user.
Don't try and throw this underneath the rug, man. We know you showed up to Apple's campus, so don't try and do that right here.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's like one of those few new gestures is like the most primary action.
I know, right? Mark's
like, iPhone, which is going back home again.
It's really like in the corner.
No, when I picked it up, I started using it. Yeah, it took me a couple of times. I asked the guy, like, all right, do this, bring down a notification. And It wasn't like this some.
Mark, you're a
I mean,
techie. It's not. I'm talking about the average Apple consumer, not me.
The average consumer,
but that was saying,
it's going to be a little rough.
That's my first time using it. I think it's just
it's going to be a little rough for the average user, man.
Wait. So you think
it is?
So there's going to be a line at the Genius Bar, whatever the hell they call it now, trying to figure out, well, how do I get my notification panel down, or how do I close it?
No, the people will.
Really? They're not going to figure it out.
No.
Yes.
It's very simple, right? When you have to go to two corners of your screen,
Apple users, yes, you're going to see that.
You're going to have people forgetting and being annoyed. I'm not saying that they will necessarily rush to the Genius Bar, but I'm saying it's going to be an annoyance of using features of functionality. Maybe the home button thing is
hate the phone because of that. I think, again, if you're buying the iPhone 10, if you don't know that you're going to need to have a couple new things that you're going to need to do with it, then I don't see it as a big deal. Again, it's going to be something that, it is a departure from how they normally do things, but this is what we've always asked Apple to do. And once they do it, then now it's an annoyance.
I'm just going to go back to my normal saying.
Who likes them to make swipe gestures?
Doesn't matter what product they have. A group of large people will not follow instructions properly. That's just what it is. So I'm just saying, in this case, it will most likely be the same thing.
Yeah, but
that's like 3D touch. Well, people are going to be confused. I mean, how long do I have to hold it to move the icon? How long do I have to hold it?
I can confirm that.
People not the majority. But have you heard?
There's a lot of people that don't even know how to
Warren
move
just
the
went
icon.
full on mic distortion.
But have you heard?
There's a lot of people that don't.
Apple had to put a press release out saying, "Hey guys, we've heard this backlash to 3D touch. We need to change."
No, it's not that there's a backlash. So no, actually,
they don't care.
Hold on, 3D touch is a perfect example of what I was talking about, though, is because again, 3D touch was implemented in a way where it wasn't mission critical. 3D touch was implemented in a way where there was terrible conveyance as to what you could get out of 3D touch. Even on the newest iOS 11. What can you use it for? Where can you use it? You have to blindly experiment with app icons and with modes and settings in apps until you can find, oh, well, if I want to go directly to something like here in my Photos app, I can 3D touch that. But by the time I figured that out, I think most people have just disregarded 3D touch and they're using their iPhones.
But how different is the OS with iOS 11 itself? That's already bringing different things as well.
Yeah,
but it's like
we've seen this from the very first implementation of 3D touch to the newest iOS 11. That was an add-on gesture menu system. That wasn't your home button. That wasn't where your control center lives.
It's a swipe up. Like they had to learn how to swipe up.
It's simple. It is technically simple to just swipe up, but if you start looking at even how it's been implemented on Android, even if I have a huge widget, it's difficult for me to swipe up because it doesn't count the widget as a swipe. So if I have a very small sliver of space to swipe up, and people are going to run into that issue if they don't realize that if you have anything on top of your screen, your swipe might just be a little bit more distorted.
Now remember this. There's also that quick multitask feature of swiping just at the very bottom, right? Quickly. And fingers will automatically do funny things when you start doing gestures instead of just pressing that. I'm just saying.
So you praise Apple for making an UI that everybody can use for all these years, but all of a sudden you're saying they haven't worked out the kinks to make sure that it's going to work great enough for people to not have these problems that you run.
I didn't praise them. That was Juan, man.
I would give them the benefit. I would give them the benefit out.
I don't know why you had to throw me under the bus.
When it comes out and we use it and we're all over the place, that'll be one thing.
No, realistically, I think the people who are buying the 10 really wouldn't care so much about all these issues that we're mentioning. Because
if you're spending $1,000, I think you wouldn't mind learning a few things. I mean,
but again, I think one of the points that I'm trying to get at is there was an aesthetic and there was a philosophy at Apple that I feel has started to erode. And that's one of the things that I'm going to point to as a data point is this kind of feels like a change for change's sake. So we've got 3D touch. Why not build a 3D touch home button? Like Samsung went and over-engineered something that they didn't need to because they knew that their users were used to pushing a button at the bottom of the screen. They could have just stuck with the normal Android software layout, but they actually built in a vibration motor that responds like a button at the bottom. And Apple had built such a phenomenal virtual button for the iPhone 7. Why not make that just a part of 3D touch and not have to change something for the sake of changing something in a UI that people are already familiar with. So it's things like that. It's not that people can't use it. It's not that people, but we see so many of these moves. You know, if you ask someone about like an iPhone 7, they are actually annoyed by things like the headphone jack being removed. But you know, it's what I have to do because I needed a new phone, so I ended up having to get this, and I deal with it. It's not that everyone's so like suddenly happy that I have a better barometer on my phone because they used that space for where the headphone jack was. And actually kind of spuriously, because apparently if you just drill into the bottom of an iPhone, you can actually rewire the leads for where the headphone jack used to be. That's a change for change's sake and a way to accessorize and a way to sell other product. That's a value add-on. So when we look at something like a gesture swipe, they already had that. They already had that for the command center. So you're changing something, but you didn't really need to change that thing. And that's what to me feels so uncharacteristic of this company. They didn't used to do this, even for these minor things we might call, you know, a home gesture swipe, a very minor interaction change. But that didn't used to be the way that Apple treated their customers. They would make all of these bold statements about, well, we're not going to make you a beta tester. We're going to give you the finished product. And that doesn't feel like it holds true anymore. So if we're going to hold them to the standard that they claim to exist at, that's something that I feel is worthy of criticism.
I just feel that if they didn't have the iPhone 8 and if they just had the iPhone 10 the way it is, I would totally agree with you. But the fact that you still have you have three phones to choose from. If you choose the phone that you're not going to be comfortable with, that's your fault.
I
can agree with that.
Hey, let's get to the chat. We got some good chat shout outs here from Link 057 that said it takes courage to have a cutout.
Oh, come on. No, come on. You gotta have some better stuff than that in the chat.
It takes courage to charge $1,000.
I mean, look, I think the thing here is and we've said it, you know, a lot of us pre-ordered the iPhone yesterday, and it was remarkably easy to pre-order iPhones yesterday, which leads us to believe that a lot of people are holding out for the 10. Now, if a lot of people are holding out for the 10, and you're also now saying, look, there are three options, pick and choose. If majority are picking the 10 and half of them may not know exactly how these features work, you're going to have people who are going to be annoyed by some of these changes for change's sake, because why don't I just have a virtual button I can press there and be done with it?
No, they're choosing the 10 because they know the difference between the 10 and the 8 and the 8 Plus. They know the difference. That's why they're choosing the 10.
Not necessarily. See, that's the thing, though. That's the mistake you made, because even people, I knew this is just anecdotal evidence, but I knew people who just didn't know the headphone jack didn't exist in the 7. And they were like, I need to get a new iPhone. I had to go like, yeah, you might want to hold up. You like to listen to music. You must get wireless headphones. You know, that's the thing that you may assume, but customers don't necessarily go through the nitty gritty of everything like we do. Our job is to go through that for them, right? But
not everybody
do that themselves.
No, not everybody, but
not everybody.
There's a general trend.
People know that you're using your face to unlock this new iPhone 10. If somebody buys an iPhone 10, it's like, oh, where's Touch ID? You know you're using your face to unlock your phone. That's what everybody's been talking about.
Yeah,
and it's just like, I think Apple has to stop kind of catering to the lowest denominator. That's one thing that they've been praised for, but they have to stop making things too simple and kind of skirting that line, because they're never going to be able to innovate and catch up or keep up with the Samsung Note 8 and all these other phones if they keep trying to play safe. Well, we don't want to push too much on our customers. We don't want to.
I agree. I think that's also been one of the fair things that we've been pointing to is Apple is of their own success.
Now here's the thing.
The boat too much with iOS. That's the huge cash cow. You don't want to scare off too many people.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think when it comes to facial unlock, I mean, this is going to sound funny, but I mean, I just hope you can unlock my face, your face, Warren.
That feature is going to be really good, or really racist, really fast.
Oh,
it's going to go one direction.
Darkness. I'm just saying, because look, I said the same thing too when Microsoft had Windows Hello.
Man? That is still difficult. It is still a very difficult moment for me, man. My computer betrayed me and unlocked for this dude.
Yeah, I know.
That was a betrayal.
Super racist.
And it just unlocked the phone. I was like, hey,
like, what the hell, man? Let me take some kinks out of this thing, man.
So hopefully, at least that's not there. But let's talk about some of the other devices. At least the other major device they announced, which is Apple TV 4K. So Apple has finally joined the 4K foray.
Apple invented 4K and HDR this week.
Yeah. Anyway, Apple TV 4K supports HDR10 plus, as well as Dolby Vision. So both formats of HDR supported. And you can go ahead and enjoy 4K content. Apple also said that if you bought movies, they will be upgraded to 4K version. So it doesn't matter, you get that free bonus update, which is great.
That's hot. I'm waiting for Google Play to maybe jump in on that for some of the films I bought.
That I do like on that aspect. But the one thing I will say, and I stated this a lot on Twitter, I'm like, if you buy an Apple 4K TV, you need to upgrade your TV itself if you don't have a 4K HDR TV, which is something that Apple and a lot of companies just don't even explain that. That's the one thing a lot of people miss, is that not even just a regular 4K TV, it's got to be 4K HDR for you to enjoy any of those benefits. But what do you guys think about Apple jumping finally into 4K HDR, the pricing for Apple TV 4K at $179 and $199, and some of the features? I'll start off with you, Sam.
I don't know. You know me. I build my own HDR.
That's what I started with you.
Yeah, this is just like, okay, and so nice. It's what, almost 10 years, a little too late. But it's realistically, 4K is good if you want to go out there and if you want to experience stuff in 4K. It's great. HDR even better. But the $179 price tag, come on. That's a little much. I think you can find solutions out there that will give you 4K, maybe not HDR, but for a lot cheaper. Now, obviously you're going to be paying the Apple tax, but like you said, how many people are going to realize that you're going to buy this amazing 4K HDR capable device, and they only have either a 4K TV or they just have a 1080p, and they're not going to be getting the full capabilities of this device. I'm actually even more interested to find out exactly what resolution your 4K really is going to be, because I've been looking around to see if Apple tweaked their 4K resolution in any way, and I haven't really gotten an answer to that yet. So it's more, to me, it's more of the implementation of all this rather than just the fact that they are offering it, and also the price point that they're offering it at. So I think right now, at this time, 2017, there are a lot more options out there where you can go and know you're getting, 4K and HDR that everyone else has already, is already using and has already been standardized for everyone else, without the question of, did Apple do anything else to it, or am I paying an Apple tax for it? So great news, but.
Mark, what do you think?
I mean, I haven't used my Apple TV in years. I don't touch it. Honestly, though. So I think, yeah, with the pricing, they nailed it with the movie. That was a big concern. That's kind of one of the pulls that Apple has, since it's so large. It has such an influence that they're able to keep that pricing as far as the actual movies and stuff themselves. Very low for the customer, but yeah, you are going to pay a little bit up front with the actual hardware. I'm not even that excited about it. I mean, again, it's good. It's good to have, especially having the iPad Pro now. Yeah, and you have the content, but I don't use the Apple TV at all.
Okay, Warren.
Man.
Okay.
It's funny that I'll be the most positive on this. Like, again, we're talking about an entrenched ecosystem of consumers that are now being better supported. I think this is a great move, and actually a move that I'm surprised Apple is actually so timely on. HDR really hasn't proven itself in the consumer mind space, and that's usually something that Apple would wait on. Wait 2 or 3 generations until other companies have sort of like built up some notion of how that things works, and Apple's actually not on the pulse, but closer than I think they've been on a number of other technologies. So I'm not someone who's going to jump ship and start using an Apple TV, but I know lots of Apple TV users in my family who this is going to be a really good fit for them.
Yeah, but one, if you have a Xbox right now, like what the latest.
That's just it. I mean, like I'm looking at families who don't have.
I'm saying if you have the latest version of the Xbox right now, you've experienced HDR. If you have the latest version of the PS Roku right now, you've experienced HDR. If you have the latest,
all of that's irrelevant to my cousin Brandon and my cousin Anthony and my grandmother, and they don't care. They have older Apple TVs, but they have nicer TVs, and they want to be able to experience this content. They don't want to have to jump ship to another device or learn a new interface. Their kids are able to use this stuff, and for a lot of those things, like I can try and sell them a Chromecast, but my cousin's kids actually
don't try to sell anyone a Chromecast.
No, but what I mean is, like, I can try and make them change, but why? Because they already have something that they like. The kids like playing some of the games on Apple TV, and for them, they feel it's like a safer investment, and it's playing nicer with their iPad or their iPhone. This is a great move for them. This is, I mean, literally, this is a very good move.
So you're saying it justifies the 179, 199 price tag?
It's not my job to justify it. It's my job to point them.
I'm saying for them.
If you're not gonna buy a $300 game console just because you want a box that plays, you know, HDR
but
videos,
that's what I'm saying. If you're gonna buy a device right now, I would say the 199 device is probably the one most people want to get because it has 64 gigs of storage, right? And if you're going to spend about $200 on a tiny box just for 4K HDR, then spend an extra $100 and get something that actually does something.
Yeah, but I mean, but listen to what you're saying though. They don't want an Xbox. If they wanted an Xbox, they could afford an Xbox. They'd go get an Xbox. So why would I say, oh, well, just spend another $100 on a product from a company you don't like to get?
I guess my argument is it does everything that a lot of people would want already.
Well, I would join that argument here.
It's cheaper though.
It's not even cheaper. It's actually my argument is actually the other way. Apple TV is number 4. If you really wanted to enjoy 4K HDR, then go $89 with the Roku. Yeah. Something more proven, something that has more options in terms of. But I do agree with Juan. For the ecosystem itself, it's a great thing. You know, for people who are used to Apple TV, it definitely is the right path. Because again, you know, like we always say, Apple users will most likely stick to what they feel comfortable best and continue with that. I disagree on the price point because I think that is just way too high on that price point. But I think it's a very good thing.
But again, I think price is kind of an irrelevant talking point now when it comes to Apple. The price is whatever the market can bear, and Apple can show that they have a solution that people will still buy. And I mean, you can try and point someone to something like a Roku, but it's kind of like the same conversation that we have. Like, you know, there's no reason why a $20 purse from Target won't satisfy all of your daily carrying needs. But there's a market of people out there who want LV plastered all over the bag and are willing to spend
true, but I look at it this way: as that being the price point at once. I mean, their price point has always been high, and they've been stuck at 4th place. So to me, they've not done anything to improve their position other than solidify whatever base that is that they have to say, we've given you the latest option there on that aspect. Whereas, you know, you've got Roku, Amazon, Chromecast ahead of them.
Fire TV,
yeah. So those are the things I think come to play. But I do agree with you, though. For the ecosystem, it makes a lot of sense.
I also think when Apple TV first kind of debuted and first kind of made its way out there, I think people were really hoping for an actual Apple TV and not just a box.
Yeah, I think there is definitely.
I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people, when it kind of came out, it just didn't hit the fanfare as heavy and really damaged the other markets, even though they had the content stored to be able to do it, and they had the apps and everything. I think it was just a disappointment of like, oh, you're just like all these other stream boxes. We were hoping you would come out and literally make a TV.
So do you think that once Apple, because the rumbling now is Apple is trying to pick up people from different studios to create their own studio. And we know Facebook is also doing that as well. You think that once Apple starts having its own content, hopefully it's good enough that it will make a dent for you to go, okay, I need to watch that show, because that's what Netflix did. Amazon is slowly doing that also, right? At least in terms of content. Do you think that's the main thing that will actually go, oh, okay, maybe it's wise to get an Apple TV as an Apple customer, even though I have a Roku or whatever the case may be? I don't know. Throw that out there to anyone who wants to.
It's at that point, it's a service, though. You know, Netflix is available on almost everything. Amazon video on demand, or Amazon Prime Video, it's available on almost anything. If Apple wants to create something that closes to its own ecosystem, I don't think people will be like, oh, now I have to go into the Apple ecosystem for this one show. They'll probably be like, I'll torrent it or I'll download it. But Apple fans are like, oh, this is a justification for me having this device. Great. But if you're already in the ecosystem, I can see a show or a series like, justifying staying in that ecosystem, or even being further embedded in that ecosystem. But to draw new entrants into your ecosystem just because of a show or TV offerings, I don't think so.
Well, I just think it makes a lot of sense because Apple has always been a services synergy hardware company. And with something like Apple TV, they have to sell other companies' services. So why not really start making their own services to sell? And that's going to be a value add for the product that you buy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Before we move to our next topic, I just want to, there's something Apple said in the press conference. It just came back to my mind that I felt slightly angered considering what their display brightness is. So Apple talked about juggling to OLEDs and how they jumped in at the right time because they have one of the best OLEDs out there. Let's just throw it out there. So 625 nits, which means it's as bright as an LG TV, which means it's not that bright, which means the Galaxy S8, Galaxy Note 8, LG V30, LG G6 are all better displays than what Apple had. Now, this is just me personally. I don't know if anybody wants to chime in, but I'm getting tired of Apple just taking old stuff that they had. I mean, if you improved it, I would be fine if you actually took it and said, this is the best display and it's like 1500 nits or what have you. But it's not. So I'm just tired of Apple doing shit like that.
You can't get mad at them for marketing. They have
no. If you're gonna market, like at least just have the product to be right. Don't give me a 625. That is half of what the Note has.
So you want them to say our display is not brighter than our competitors?
No. When you say it's the best, if you say it's the best, just make sure it's the best.
Well, you can say anything's the best, but it's not actually the best. How many companies say their phones are the best on the market, but it's not actually the best?
No, but Apple usually goes, this is the most forward-thinking iPhone.
Thank you.
I totally agree with you. But that's what Apple is good at. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. If you're going to sell something, sell me on it. They're going to sell it all the way, and Apple's the best at selling their products. They're the best at selling this feature, even though it's been out for years on other phones. They're the best at selling it, and I can't get mad at a company for selling their product the best way.
See, I mean, like when they made that statement, I was like, I have to check it out myself. And Dom Esposito was on Twitter. It was like 625 nits. This is the calculation for nits to screen ratio, and he went and he was like, "Look, I'm sorry, guys. This thing is half as bright as the Galaxy Note, so it's not even close. I don't even care anymore." But that's the thing I don't like is I would love Apple to.
Y'all nitpick on Apple too.
No, there's not nitpicking.
If you look, there are two devices that were announced within a few weeks of each other: the Note 8 and this Apple X, sort of iPhone X, right? Now, if you look at both of these, like the iPhone 10, if you look at both of these devices, both of them actually are catering to their target audiences, right? But at the end of the day, one of them actually does a little bit more to say, okay, maybe we can branch out a little bit and try to get new, kind of like new customers into the fold. And it wasn't the iPhone that did that. They came out with nothing that was really compelling. Whereas the Note 8, sorry to compare to both of them, the Note 8 actually came out with changes that was substantive over the last.
Well, no, I mean, I see what you're trying to get at, Sam, but I very much disagree in that what we see from the front-facing cameras and sensors is very compelling. It's just it's being used for something really frivolous right now. And I think Apple has the market power to move the needle on something like augmented reality. And again, taking it back to AR, this is something that could fundamentally change how we interact with data and services at a very granular level. I mean,
they have
every
the
single
ability
service
to push all of that, right? But where did they innovate? Apart from, like I said,
Sam,
I would agree with you.
We're talking about a company that almost always devalues hardware, delivering amazing hardware features. That's actually a really big deal for Apple. Normally, they're the company that waits for years.
It could be a big deal for Apple, and that's fine. But a lot of other companies have been out there pushing AR, pushing VR for such a long time.
And to what benefit? I mean, like, am I going to recommend someone put up a Lenovo Fab 2 Pro? Like, that's not a thing.
A company like HTC thinking about spinning off its own VR company. So it's
right. And so that's not what we're talking about here.
To the play right now. The fact that Apple is
we're not talking about a $700 VR system that requires sensors in your room. We're talking about an actual consumer-facing augmented reality system
Gear VR
goes right from your phone that
Gear
doesn't
VR is
have
already there.
10 different sensors on the back. Gear VR is irrelevant to a conversation
Google was
about
already
augmented
doing.
reality.
Google was already doing.
Well, I mean,
things
actually,
with basically,
Project Tango
their
is
own device,
irrelevant
Tango.
to a conversation about consumers
Actually,
using
both
AR.
are actually
No,
relevant.
it's not.
because of
No,
wait.
Project Tango is not irrelevant to
No, no, no,
consumers
no.
using AR. What do you mean by that?
No, see, the issue is that you're mad at the timing. See, that's the problem. Like, you're mad that Apple is doing it after these other companies, which is that's what I consider nitpicking. Is if they do the AR and Apple, you have to recognize they do have an influence on the market they get into. It changes. When they get into AR, they're going to be way more opportunities, way more apps, way more stuff that hits the market because Apple's into AR than all these other companies that have already been doing it for years. And I think that we spend too much time. Like next year, I guarantee you, Samsung is going to upgrade their facial recognition for their face unlock. I guarantee it won't be the same response like, oh, Apple did it first, or Apple improved it first to add these different things. It would be, oh, this is a fantastic thing.
No. Well, on that point,
No, Apple fanboys will jump all over Samsung and say you copied them and start going and jumping around.
Okay,
you guys can't talk trash.
Soldier, to your point, it is coming because we know. Look, it's very Qualcomm said it's coming at 845, so it's going to be there. But I agree. Yeah, it's no one will necessarily say that. You know, they're second to the market with that part.
That's the whole point. I mean, Apple's doing AR. I mean, look, again, I'm the same way. I love my Note 8. I don't know how these phones are going to compare to stack up to it. The Note 8 is a fantastic phone, but I mean, that's like me arguing, well, what did Samsung innovate with the Note 8 versus the S8?
No, see, you all missed my original.
Nobody's going to nitpick on something.
Whether it was AR is a new innovation or not. I'm saying if you're going to claim something that you're doing as the third or fourth company in the line, then do it well, which my own point was the display. I'm like, I'm sorry, your display is shit. You call it Super Retina, it's 625. So don't give me that. Now with AR, I'm just calling it shit. This is I mean, but with AR, I see Juan's point, right? But I just have to wait for it to be proven. You know, if it works as well as the videos and the demos and everything, all the apps come out that way, then you have to give Apple props for saying, yes, you've pushed that industry sector forward, you know, on that.
I think it's a guarantee. And that's one of these, like, it's a guarantee that Apple is talking about getting into 4K HDR is going to push that market forward. Apple finally getting their phones updated to wireless charging. While, yes, it took forever, you're going to see more business
on the side of 4K HDR.
Apple has that push, and that's just
I don't
the 4K HDR. I disagree with that.
Their market base is so far behind. I mean, when it comes to all the stuff in phones, when it comes to 4K HDR, Apple has no say right now in that market. I mean, when they say they're number 4, they're a distant number 4. It's not even close.
No, Netflix had to say in how 4K HDR works.
Yeah,
Amazon has a say.
Yeah,
Amazon has that say.
So I see it on the AR aspect where, yes, you know, once they said AR, I think you're going to see a lot of AR with games.
And I heard AR, and all I heard, well, I guess they got the best Pokemon Go game. That's all I heard with it.
I mean, again, it's. I would say it's extremely short-sighted from anyone who claims to be into tech. I mean, not for anyone here. I'm not saying about anyone here. I'm saying when I've seen people shrug off AR, it literally is going to be the foundation that is going to radically shift every single app and service that we use. And so for Apple to actually push a consumer, I mean, something that's going to be as broad as an iPhone. It's not an iPhone special edition. It's not an iPhone add-on that you have to plug into a lightning connector. They're not trying anything stupid with modular devices.
Wait, AR works for both 8 and
part
8
of
10,
the
right?
iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone 10. Yeah. That's going to be it's going to be a sea change in how app developers approach consumers.
Well, the thing is that I wonder, right now we're using the phone as a means for augmented reality, but I'm wondering if that is the device.
Oh no!
Really
no!
That's
what's so exciting. Lauren, you're totally right, because we are using the phone to start because that's the entry point. We interact everything through these glowing rectangles, but we also know that Apple is probably most aggressive in looking at other lifestyle issues. They've had to push back their heads-up display glasses. I mean, that was originally supposed to be a 2018 project. It's probably not going to be released, if ever, until 2020. But we know that they have other things that they need to work on. What did we learn from Google Glass is that people don't want to wear a face computer. But if we start giving them services that interact with the world around them, it's going to start making sense that we put this stuff up at eye level. And where does that fit best?
Well, no, I think people said they don't want to wear ugly, goofy looking computers on their face.
That's what I mean.
If you get that same setup, but you put in a pair of Ray-Bans that looks normal,
look at the Snapchat.
I think you'll know.
Well, like Snapchat spectacles are pretty.
It's kind of weird, but
that's the first success.
Yeah, people got excited about them, and so that's what I'm saying is I don't call Google Glass a heads-up display because that does a disservice to heads-up displays. I call Google Glass a face computer because it makes you look like a freaking board, and it's just as geeky and as nerdy as it sounds. Do you want to wear a face computer? No one wants to. But any company that's actually going to properly address that for consumers, Apple's at the top of that list. So once they start collecting all of this data from people using AR on phones, where do you think that's going to go next? I hope it's a major part of Apple's automobile strategy, giving us AR in cars. And then the next logical step is something where we can interact with data in the world around us through some very simple augmented reality glasses, headsets, computing device that we wear. That's what's so compelling about it. No other also, Google included, has a roadmap that really gets this in the hands of consumers.
But we have to figure out, what is the killer application that it's going to be that does it? Is it like what at the ASUS event where they showed a lot of the clothing and the way that kind of worked in terms of AR? Is it going to be something like within a car? What's going to be?
I think it's the interface
that's going to
honestly,
actually get people to want to use this as part of their daily life.
I could sell AR like crazy by just giving me a good mapping application.
Yeah. But I think you're right.
Map line on the road that I'm driving on because my car won't give it to me. But give it to me in a pair of glasses or like I need good walking directions in the city and I can hold up an iPhone and it paints my path right in front of me. It was the dream of Google Glass in that ad that they created. Remember, it was a day through the looking glass or something like that, or a day in glass. I mean, those types of things, it's so simple, but that's what makes it so compelling is what's the next step for navigation? It's not looking away from where you're navigating to interact with a rectangle. It's seeing where you're going while you travel that path. That's one application. You start getting into things like Snapchat. What if I could create an AR message that interacts with you like a hologram? That's a HoloLens kind of idea, but HoloLens is not in the consumer's hands. Microsoft has ceded their lead in creating AR for consumers. They've given up on that market.
Microsoft has given up hardware. Let's just put it that way.
let's not talk about this, guys. Come on, we're just going to derail everything.
Yeah, I know. Like every time
we'll go into the bottomless pit of Microsoft and hardware.
Let's not do it. But I do agree. But I think personally, it's actually the software because having Google Maps or something like that is great. But just using it, if I have AR glasses that really is as seamless as some of the app itself to use, I think that's the one that's going to basically set the standards as we move forward. But that being said, we need to leave Apple and move on to
our next great conversations.
Yeah, we did have great conversations, but it looks like Google is going to be having its big event for the Pixel 2 come October 4th. They had a video that went out, we know that's going to be coming. So I don't know if anyone has got invites. I haven't got any invites yet. Just saying, maybe
I thought this was just basically showing things that I ask when I Google stuff like, what's wrong with my phone?
No.
Why wouldn't my phone do a kickstand? Okay. That was actually
for a second there. I thought you were going to say this is what happens when I Google like, what's this rash on my arm or something.
No, not arm.
We just had to go.
Yeah.
Well played.
but anyway, so I want to just throw it out there. What do you guys expect from the Pixel 2? But also looking at our second article after the article after the Google launch event, FCC filings have come out. There's a Google device that has a full vision display, which is LG's display. Is LG making the Pixel 2? What happened with HTC? Thoughts, just generally, guys. What do you guys think?
I think this Pixel 2 is probably the phone I've been the most excited about. The Pixel 1 camera is clearly the star of the show, but they were still missing features that they needed to catch up on, with water resistance and things like that. So I think Google, after the Nexus devices, the Pixel was the first one that's like, all right, we're really going to get serious into it. And they still have some issues with it, but with this Pixel 2, if they can pull it together, if they can bring a device that not only has a fantastic camera, but by that video that they showed off, can really kind of answer all of these problems or questions that we have with some of our current devices with the software. I think it's going to be probably one of the most important phones of the year, and probably the one I'm most excited to probably try to get my hands on.
Sorry, Warren. I was thinking of. Never mind. Just Warren. Go ahead.
Think about that rash. Think about what that rash is. That's what
Did you Google the rash?
He got the result. He got the wrong result.
The wrong result. He didn't get the result he wanted.
You know what? Just talk about Pixel 2, man.
They gave him a 3D model of it. Interact with it.
Get an AR.
Yeah.
Oh, God, no. Nobody was.
That's a perfect use for AR. That's a great use.
Wait, is someone talking about AR? I can talk about AR. Let's talk about AR more.
You look at your rash in your hand. You're like, what is? Ooh, never mind. Anyway,
A perfect application for AR. The medical community is going to love this.
Warren, go ahead.
What were we talking about?
So many blurry photos. Why does my phone take so many blurry photos? Tell us about it.
So why does your phone take so many blurry photos? Because you don't wipe off the damn lens.
Really?
Number one.
It's so funny when a Samsung warns you about that, and you're like, well, maybe you shouldn't have put the fingerprint sensor right next to the camera.
I know, right?
But okay, we can do that later. Warren, tell us why doesn't my phone understand me? Please, just let me know more.
Because you don't speak English. That's right. No, but the Pixel 2 looks like one's going to be made by HTC, and I guess another one's going to be made by LG. So we'll see how well they work out. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. They did a real good job with the first Pixel. It was a really good device, outside of some of its flaws, and not mentioning that their camera had a hardware flaw. They tried to fix with software, but somehow they still got they got the highest rating for a smartphone by DxOMark, apparently, with the legit hardware flaw in it. So hopefully they fix that doesn't happen anymore. It's just kind of wait and see what they're bringing to the table this go around. They really got serious after I think it really started with how I think unexpectedly popular the 6P got with a lot of people, and how good, really Huawei was probably the best hardware manufacturer they ever used for a Nexus during the Nexus era at that time. And I think they looked at that and said, oh, maybe we have something here. And then here comes the Pixel line of things, and each with the HTC, and that's worked so well. So I think this second one go around, they really want to try and knock it out of the park as best they can, because as Juan usually says, it takes like 3 iterations for a product to really matter in the market. So we'll see what they do with the second one, and hopefully that'll lead up to maybe the third one will be the grandiose of them all. But the most exciting thing they could do for me is obviously improve the camera, get the great AMOLED display on it, and they're not going to do this, but I'd love to see them have SD card support.
Yeah, I just really want to see them nail a price, do a very aggressive price with it to kind of.
I think they're going to match. I think they're going to match Apple, because that's how they sold the Pixel, and that's how the Pixel moved up, because it's a marketing thing. It's like, we know the Pixel probably should be less than what it was, because that's what usually Android devices do, but marking it as expensive as Apple put it in the category with that.
Yeah, totally
so
agree.
that's how people compare and think with that. No one really thinks of it's less, but I'm getting more. No, it's less, so it must be a lesser product. They don't conjoin the two together. People aren't necessarily that smart with their money.
No, I definitely agree. I am not as excited as you guys as the Pixel. Since I know there's no headphone jack, that phone is lost to me. Half of it is gone.
And the table's been flipped.
Yeah. Especially like when I heard with Essential, they're releasing a headphone jack DAC yesterday. I wanted to smack them because I was like, you could have just built this thing in there and still charge the same price. It would be nice. I think the Pixel will be a nice device. The fact that I'm hearing the rumors that it's going to have, main squeeze functionality. That's another thing I'm going to throw out the window as well, because
Nobody wants to squeeze the damn phones.
It's a gimmick. Rumor.
Give me a button.
It's a gimmick.
Rumor.
But again, what a button's really
A button does squeezing for you.
Yeah. So
No, I really do hope they change the UI though. Like, I really am hoping they stick to the material design and they actually stick to it the whole way through this time, because now it's beginning to look the UI is beginning to look a little childish. It's beginning to look XPX. You know what I mean? Like with the way XP looks, with really bright blues and bright greens and stuff.
Really, you think that's going to be a turnoff for a consumer segment? Because this isn't a developer phone; it's a consumer phone, and I think that stuff actually still plays really well.
I think that stuff plays well. Bright
well,
colors.
From my point of view, I pick up a phone. I keep going back to the Note 8. I pick up a phone like a Note 8. It looks like a serious phone. I pick up a phone like the Pixel. Doesn't look much like a serious phone.
Well, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you for hardware. Like the Note 8 looks like it's all about the business, and the Pixel doesn't.
But that's what it's meant to look like. That, but that's different, two different markets.
But I mean, when we were talking about the software and the UI, I think a lot of those criticisms could still be levied at Samsung when you look at Samsung's native icon pack.
No, they've changed it.
They changed it.
I like what
they've changed.
I mentioned this to E, but the thing is, like, last time I used the Pixel device, right, and I'm in the what's it called? I'm in the drawer, and it's like a white background. First of all, sucking so much energy with all these icons that are huge, and then when you put all the icons together, it's like a circular folder. It's like it's a little childish. That's why I'm kind of hoping to go away from that a little bit. But I guess it's oh yeah, Juan is here again.
Yeah,
I didn't even know he went away. I was talking to you and you went away.
Juan was like, I don't want to hear that shit, man.
I'm done. I'm out.
You guys keep talking. I'm going to replace my lower third. I don't know what happened there.
No, I mean, I think
crashing is what happened.
What I would like to see from the Pixel is something that makes me want to get a Pixel. So as much as I diss the iPhone and all that, if I went to just say a feature, right, that face unlock is something I really just want to check out. So I would literally say that's something that would drive me to the device, plus the AR functionalities. The Galaxy Note has its own thing. The V30 has its own thing. What is it for the Pixel? That's what I want to know.
It's the same for me as the original Pixel. Like, I wouldn't have recommended a Pixel for anyone who was really into audio. The headphone jack on that was actually a pretty big disappointment. It's software. If you want to have that first-party Google-supported product that circumvents this ridiculous chain of Google manufacturer and carrier supporting your device, then you're looking at a Pixel. That's your best bet. If you want probably the best software longevity on an Android device, you want the best performance on an Android device, you want that most streamlined experience, you're looking at a Pixel.
Okay. All right.
The only thing is we got to make sure we can get a Pixel this go around, because they're pretty hard to find.
That is very true. That's very true. Also, it looks like always on display tech is coming to Android O. So does that mean that the Pixel will probably have that? Which would be nice.
I think it's a pretty clear indication. I think one of the things that hasn't gotten as much play from Android O though is the way that Google is going to start mandating the control over background processes. So we think, it's obviously a foregone conclusion on the Pixel, but moving forward, if a manufacturer is going to update to Android O, they have to comply. That's now a mandatory addition to Android. So that to me is kind of one of the more exciting aspects. Like it sounds so geeky and techie, and it's stuff that happens in the background, but that to me is actually moving the needle on improving the user experience, especially for battery life.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that would definitely help. Our last news topic is the fact that Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, is looking to invest $1 billion into Lyft. Now, for me, this indicates two things. One, they may be looking to acquire Lyft itself and also bolster their autonomous car division. and make that a truly profitable venture down the line, because we do know only one segment of Alphabet makes money. It's called Google, which has YouTube underneath that. So they need to find ways to, of course, bolster all the aspects of the company. But what do you guys think about this investment? Do you think it leads anything, or you just think it's a big company trying to look for different sources to, generate revenue or capital? I will start off with Mr. Mark.
I won the lottery. No, I think it's a good acquisition. Well, whatever, a good investment for them. And I just think it just kind of points to how shitty a year that Uber has been having so far. Uber maybe seemed like they're primed for the taking, or they're in a vulnerable spot. And Lyft has been, slowly kind of getting better. I started personally using Lyft a little bit more. So, yeah, I think it's definitely not going to hurt them. I don't think. I think it's something good to have under development. Yeah, and again, if they can use that to help their autonomous driving, or kind of that may be the first step of them implementing whatever tech they have with that into Lyft to kind of get into the market to see how it performs before they actually get more serious about it. I think it's a win.
Sam?
There's a market to actually purchase a company like Lyft. Lyft hasn't really been doing that well, especially in New York. It's been taking a third seat, or more and more so appearing to be third place between Uber and Juno, and Lyft is coming in third there. But I think why Google might want to invest in a company like Lyft is also looking into autonomous driving, which is something that Google is looking into. And almost every single one of these car companies, even Uber, has their own autonomous driving division. So maybe Google is looking for a partner that could actually take their technology on the road and start using it as quickly as possible. And to me, I think Lyft is probably the best bet there. I haven't really heard of Juno doing anything with autonomous cars, so that might be the play they're going for. Invest billions into Lyft as a way of kind of getting a jump start for autonomous cars on the road, because we've already seen that Uber has already gotten that leg up
in Pittsburgh,
a couple years. Yeah, they've already started using autonomous cars to shuttle people around. That this might be Google's play. That's basically what I think about it.
Okay, Warren?
Yeah, I think it's one thing Google's already had there. In San Francisco, they had a car sharing service, or have a car sharing service they're trying to work on out there, that they were trialing out. And I think the reason some autonomous cars out there as well too, and probably got to a point to say it's probably a little bit easier to try and invest in a company that's already specialized in this, and either partner with them or maybe eventually absorb them under the alphabet lettering. I do think Lyft's probably the better of the two between them and Uber for those type of things. For Lyft, this helps them, I think, compete a little bit more against Uber, who has a crap ton of financing behind it. And I think being able to have the power of Google behind them is going to really help them out and keep these two competitive, because I always open up both apps to who's ever going to give me the cheapest price is the person that I usually go with. And I think I told you this, it was like a year between Lyft rides. I like every single time, at least in Boston, Uber was always coming in cheaper than Lyft until almost a year, until like last month when I finally got to use a Lyft that it actually came in under them. So it'd be nice to see that competition continue, because that keeps prices at a nice point. People continue to innovate and things kind of going forward. I mean, I heard Sam mention this Juno company. I don't think we have in Boston, but it'd be nice to see another third option in there as well too, competing in this space.
Yeah, Juno took over Get in
Get. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we had Get.
And their pricing is very similar to just regular cab prices. But it's like you get into a regular cab. It's pretty good.
But it's good to see this competition, this space continuing, and people getting into there and pushing this forward, and not letting somebody get too big or stagnate, or prices don't get too expensive, or things start gouging. And it just like Mark said, it kind of speaks to the year that Uber has had, which is just they're gonna want to forget about 2017 and probably 2016 too. There's a couple of years in here right now they're probably gonna want to forget and try to start the going forward from all the changes, probably start on a better footing, hopefully for them as well too, because they need to be around to keep this market as competitive as it is. But yeah, that's what I sort of think. I think it's a move where Google's probably contemplating of the buyout of Lyft to bring in not only the autonomous car division, but bring in that the ride sharing service, which brings in raw mapping data for them, which brings in more location data, which brings in more things that they can do in terms of advertising and target. And being that they're Google, they can probably lower the prices because they can afford to take a loss on ride sharing to sell the data to companies that are looking for data on where people are going and where they're going. Because at the end of the day, these companies are all logistic companies. They're just getting a whole bunch of mapping data, seeing where people are going, and they're eventually just going to resell that. Because at some point or another, the rides are going to be either going to cost nothing, like email, or be really, really, really low in terms of calling up a cab. It's going to be like nothing to get one because they're going to make money off all the other data that they got.
Yeah. And all the advertising they'll be delivering to you while you're driving.
Juan, any thoughts?
I mean, I think you all have covered the points really well. I think one of the important strategy issues here, regardless of whether or not Google is looking to option Lyft, to acquire Lyft, is that Google and Uber are currently in litigation, right? Isn't really? Uber hasn't Uber been accused of stealing their self-driving car technology, not licensing their self-driving car technology?
Yeah.
So if there's going to be an arms race in the self-driving arena, it makes a lot of sense for Google to back the number 2 ride-sharing service and to make sure that that's an even playing field if Uber has actually absconded with that IP. So I mean, every part of this, from whether or not it's an acquisition, just down to do we have a healthy competing marketplace with this new technology, is kind of on point. This is the right play for Google.
Okay. We have one more topic which I cannot add into our topic list because I'm getting error messages, but this has to do with a lawsuit filed by an ex-employee on pay discrimination. I know Warren brought this up, so can you lead us on this, Warren? And fire away, and we can share our thoughts.
So there's, I had the article up here, and it disappeared on me all of a sudden. Good old Google. But basically, it's a lawsuit. There's 3 ex-female Google employees that are accusing Google of pay discrimination, and that they're obviously getting paid less than some of their male counterparts, promotions and things like that, and to a legal battle. I don't think this is the first time Google's been in this battle before, but what's interesting about it is that they're dealing with this at the same time they're dealing with the Department of Labor in terms of how much data that they're willing to give up about their salaries, and amidst everything sort of going else in Silicon Valley, which has had these accusations of the pay discriminatory practices before amongst companies there. So I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts sort of about that, how valid you think the claims are, and where do you think this sort of goes? Bueller? I know I have my thoughts on it because I know it's a good.
I mean, it's in terms of like the validity of the claim. That's a hard thing to pinpoint.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, I mean, personally, I grew up in a Nigerian family where you were just told, just be the best, and you be all set, right? That's at least a lot of us have that kind of family background where whether it's male or female, it's like, do your best and you should be compensated for it in that aspect. So that's my general mindset. But, it's sad to kind of hear these kind of practices, whether it's legitimate or not, but at least just the general fray that is going on. And to also hear that in Silicon Valley, where we would think more progressive thinking flows, that it's one of the worst.
This is also hot off the heels from that email from the employee right afterwards talking about this stuff. So I'm wondering if there's timing of that and this kind of coincided.
It's the right time to apply political pressure.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think it was a coincidence.
Well, I just did a quick little article search on it. Google just announced like 3 days before that they closed the gender gap. I mean, so I don't find it like unbelievable that this was still happening there. So, I mean, I think Apple a couple years ago came out and said they were trying to fix that as well. So yeah, this thing again, it should have been fixed 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, 20 years ago, honestly.
It's tough. It's tough to say when like. Because you don't see the raw data on salaries and things like that. It's like it's hard to sit there and say, like, well, okay, they have to fix, but how much did they fix? What did they have to fix? What did they have to change? What kind of happened? We've had this law where you cannot pay discriminate based on race and gender for I don't know, God knows how long now, and it's like literally you report things to the Department of Labor, and if it's clear that it's like it's like to me if there were companies really doing this on a truly large scale, they had to have been caught by now, or this is one of the biggest conspiracies that the government's going through, because not only did they get the labor data, they also get everyone's taxes, and they can kind of put 2 and 2 together to figure out who's getting paid.
Labor Department and IRS don't talk to each other.
They don't, but there's enough people working in those things that somebody's going to whistleblow and somebody's going to say something if it came out. It's like nobody can keep a fucking secret. So it's like that's what makes.
Yeah, I think one of the girls was like, I guess the starting salary was different from somebody that came in with they started at a different. Yeah, I mean, so that may be kind of harder to detect. Yeah, I mean, that may be.
Every year, the starting salary will go up for any person getting the same job. Usually, it's equated based on market.
Based on experience too. Yeah,
and experience, which that's the tough part. See, we don't have the experience. We don't have the things to match this up.
If you think about this for a young woman who basically fought her way into an engineering SKU or computer science SKU, and wants to be an engineer and is thinking, okay, I want to be. I know there are not so many people of my gender in this field, but I want to be one. And then she reads something like this at probably one of the best companies out there for engineers and computer scientists right now, and there's a pay gap. I think that kind of discourages people. And that's what I'm more worried about. I'm more worried about the next set of engineers and innovators looking at this and saying, you know what, as a woman, there really is probably a dead end taking this engineering or comp sci major, maybe actually focus on something else. That's what things like this, that's why things like this scare me, that we're basically shutting out a whole nother generation of innovators just because of the agenda.
It all depends on how this gap started, where the gap is. It could be innocently from, like you said, like where starting salaries go, because there's those times where a jump could happen and they don't correct the jump based upon
if you read the article, it's not just about where she started. She started as a level 3. She said all the people who were hired, all her male counterparts started at a level 4, and she had to fight to get to a level 4. So that's to me says it's a little bit more of a systemic issue.
Yeah, but what were the qualifications on each side? Were they exactly the same? That those guys
realistically,
we won't find. We don't want to know that stuff.
Realistically, to me, that experience level doesn't really matter when you're saying people doing the same job as you basically start off at a higher rate than you. I've experienced the same thing, and it's like, come on, it makes no sense what your experience is. If I'm sitting down in an office and I'm doing the same work as you, I don't care if you've been doing it for 10 years. If you're doing the same job as me, I should be getting paid as much as you are.
This speaks to a larger problem. It's just how hiring in the United States works, which is just a really garbage process for the most part, and it creates muck messes like this that we should not have at all. But it creates these really silly things because for one, we don't talk. No one shares salary data. No one talks about their salary. There is no real law reason for that. It's just what the culture's grown up in doing, and we hire really based on algorithms and based on really silly stuff instead of really just focusing on, all right, can this person do this job? Let's bring him in at this job, not having these levels and all these other extra things in here to segment people, to slice people, which just brings a whole bunch of middle management crap and all this other nonsense out there that causes probably things like this to sort of happen. Yeah, I
like the experience. I like the experience factor. No, I mean, they do it in the military too. Like if you're a certain rank, but if you have a certain years of experience.
But that's structured. Remember, Mark, that's structured within the ranks of the military. You come in there, your experience matters. It's not something you're not coming out of someplace else with experience coming into it. and that's why it works in the military so well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, think about it, right? Even if I join the military tomorrow and I have more experience in a certain field, I am still going to be a private, no matter what. I mean, that's
actually, I won't be. You be, but I would.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually, no, I won't be.
You got a college degree. You got a college degree.
I'd be an 01 because I got my ROTC my degree. That's 01 status, baby. Walking right into candidate school.
I still make you do push-ups.
Until I graduate.
I would love to get you in my fucking unit.
How long that? No. He'll have his 6 weeks of fun until I get that gold bar.
It'll be mandatory using an iPhone for the entire time.
Oh, don't worry. I can deal with 6 weeks using an iPhone. Can you deal with that for the rest of your career once I outrank you? Can you deal with Android for the rest of the year? No, better yet, I'll make you use Windows Phone.
Anyway, Juan, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I know we kind of just sidetracked there for a second, but yeah.
Oh no, I mean, again, this is a wide-reaching and nuanced issue that requires a lot of examination across the business industry. And I think one of the most important things that we can teach people coming into the job market is that this isn't a meritocracy. We try and make it look like, you work hard, you make the right plays, and then, the cream rises to the top. But that's not true. I think in any field, in any discipline, it would be beneficial for people to also take some more business classes to look at what does management structure really resemble, and how do you communicate with people that are also performing jobs around you, because we have a long ways to go to actually address the problems. But I think there's a significant culture shock from when people leave academia and move into the job market. And I think one of the ways that we can help address that and actually bring more voices into the conversation is properly exposing them to what these cultures really resemble once you leave the safety of the college environment.
Yeah, no,
there's like a million business degrees out there. They should know what's going on in the market.
No. I don't think people should be getting business degrees. But I look at, like my little sister just got.
But there's already a bunch of people already doing that.
But my little sister just got her PhD, and she's moving into her first job out of college, and there is some kind of culture shock from when she was just working in the lab to then actually looking at projects that require management and delivering on certain aspects of those projects. And you can get a sense of that in college, and you can get a feel for what that might resemble. But I think we could do a better job of educating, especially young people entering the job market.
I think the course you're thinking about is less business, more political science.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, that's kind of the point that I'm getting at is right now we've got this notion of teaching job skills as if there's a plan, or that there's a path, or that there's a career trajectory that you can account for, when the reality of that is that stuff doesn't really exist anymore. Yeah. We're still teaching business skills as if you're going to get a pension from a company after you worked there for 30 years.
That's
not a thing.
A very good point.
Yeah, very good point.
And so, especially when we're looking at, especially tech companies, one of the things that I think we could be doing a better job for everybody involved, regardless of gender or of whether or not you're a minority, is just like this is the game, and it literally is for a lot of people a game that impacts your life. And if we can start teaching better skills for that arena, then I think people come out ahead, and they're better prepared to join this conversation with less culture shock when they're actually involved. I mean, it's going to help with women and minorities for negotiating skills. I mean, I came out of talent agency work in LA. I'm looking at an agreement right now, and I'm putting together contracts, and I'm actually having the conversations before I pass it over to a lawyer. But that took me 10 years in LA to pick up those skill sets. If I had any kind of education like that when I was a theater student in college, I would have been so much better prepared for actually trying to execute at the ground level.
Well, a lot of that has to do with the core of what the school's designed. School was never really designed what we use it for its purpose. Schooling was designed for you to be another cog in a machine. It wasn't necessarily designed
Well,
for you
and the
to
middle
think
class was built
outside.
on manufacturing jobs.
Yeah,
That made
it
a lot of
wasn't.
sense.
It isn't. It's needed an update for a while in terms of a lot of those things of teaching people how to react once you come into the real world. That's why I think things such as co-ops and internships and having a job in college are really
Apprenticeship
important things.
programs.
Are really important things that every student should do to prepare themselves to get out there, because the schools aren't going to teach you that. And it would be nice to see some companies, if they can afford it, if they know they have an entry level program, to introduce new hires into what the how the company works, and how now that you're in the workforce and how the real workforce works would also be a cool thing as well too. Some of the bigger companies like the Googles and the Microsofts of the world, that would be something nice to see. But until
I
we
think
change it.
I think it makes a lot of sense. You're definitely right, Juan. I mean, to my own personal experience, I will say that when I left college, just because I did, besides my bio degree, I also did a lot of comp sci classes. I also did a lot of economics and politics classes. I know I made more than my coworkers who had more experience than I did, just because I was able to go in and look at what I should be making in terms of just what I needed to make. So it goes a long way to at least getting that kind of experience. So if you're in college, if you're in school, I would say take some classes that just give you a better insight, because it helps. You know, it helps.
And look at complementary classes. I think that
fine.
thing that people don't really look into, because we have our global world electives, right? Yeah, you know, those global world electives. Take a language, take an art class or whatever. What I used mine for was to get a math minor while I was getting an engineering degree. And then
I did a dance minor.
It's okay, man.
That's awesome, man.
That is fantastic, man. We all know who we're partying with.
No, that's pretty cool. I actually would not peg you as a dance minor, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. I was a theater and dance student. I was going to be
really cool.
Let me look up some YouTube videos now.
Oh,
I'll throw it out there. There aren't any older videos of me, but there's a group called Molati, and they're a step group, and that used to be my.
You called the group Molati? Oh my!
we were actually one of the country's first co-ed, multiracial step teams. We competed and toured for about 2 years.
What? I'm looking this up.
I made it through the first round of auditions in Stomp. I just wasn't a very good drummer, so I didn't.
That's awesome.
Oh shit, that's cool.
No, like you have to. That's a perfect example, right? Find a complementary line of study. Just if you're going in for computer science, it's all well and good, but think about, okay, maybe I want to be an app developer. Maybe I should take some business classes, understand how I can actually take these skills and turn it into an actual business. You know, maybe you're really interested in math. Maybe I add some economics to this and see maybe I can make a big change in the finance and in the business world. You go around and look at complementary things, and this will actually make you more marketable. But when it comes to just pay, like going into an office and getting paid, I think it behooves all employers out there, and it behooves all schools to fight for their graduates to basically be compensated for the job they're doing, not the experience they have. So if I'm coming in and all I'm doing is pushing the button, and someone else has been working for 10 years pushing the button, I should be making the same amount of money for pushing the button as that person. If that person wants to become like Mr. Push Button Double Boss, then he should make more money. But if he decides to stay pushing button for 10 years, sorry, dude, 10 years of doing the same thing doesn't make you an expert at it. We're all going to be doing the same thing, and we're all going to get paid the same way.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
I don't know. Bastard, socialist, fascist.
I think it's really unfair. No, I really do think it's really unfair for a lot of kids coming out of college right now. Yeah, a lot of kids coming out of college right now, and they're going into this job and they're competing with people who've been doing the same thing for 10 years and want to get paid more. And this kid is basically getting shafted, and they have to take almost nothing to do a job.
It's the joke of we're looking for an entry-level position that has 5 years experience.
And you're basically going to be doing the same thing as people who've been doing it for 10 years.
Gotta pay your dues sometimes.
But it's been like that for so long. Yeah, come out of college, we need a college degree plus 2 years of experience. That was like, it gets to the point because you deal with that, and then you're coming out of school and you're panicking about getting a job. to the point where you end up taking anything that comes by because somebody isn't trying to push you with that. Well, we see you have a degree, but we're looking for somebody with 2 to 3 years of experience, and it's not a sales job. And literally, that's why the kids jump into it. That's why, I usually advise kids to like, well, I should call them kids, but like the young adults when they come when they fresh out of college, it's like if you're in a job that's like that and you enter in there, you stay there no longer than a year, and then after you get your year done, go someplace else.
Especially because
you got to start working in that field.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely.
And those companies aren't going to show you any more loyalty.
No.
It's like when I started working at a talent agency, I was going up against people with MBAs, and like if I just hadn't been really annoyed that day, like I had to fight West Hollywood traffic, and I had to take a day off work. I was I was in corporate computer sales at the time. And I'm sitting before this gentleman who's really, really old. He's the head of the agency, and he's trying to like whittle away every accomplishment that I've ever had, trying to make it seem like it wasn't that big a deal. And I've got people that are coming to me with much more education than you do. And if I hadn't like in that moment just been annoyed enough to negotiate, I wouldn't have gotten that job. Yeah. And so when people are sitting here and trying to have a conversation with someone in hiring about, well, I mean, we need someone with 3 years experience to be able to turn that around, to be able to continue the conversation and not just let someone else dictate their value. That's a big deal. And I don't think it's something that's really being taught for all of these various industries, for all of these different disciplines.
Yeah, you have to start working whatever job you want to get into and you're in college. You got to start working in that field your freshman year. So that summer, you got to be doing something. I don't care if you're getting an internship.
Totally.
So
another thing as well too, you come out of school and you have to deal with these recruiters that are trying to recruit you for jobs. Never let them try to sell you for less than what you're trying to get an offer for, because they will always try to do that. If you say you want the money that you want, is reasonable in your field, don't let them try to sell you less on that.
There's an amazing episode of
I hate recruiters,
dying
by the way,
to be made on things like jobs and negotiating. Like when you look at things like people selling their houses on the market, like a real estate agent will try and flip your house as quickly as possible, but when they sell their house, they'll let it stay on the market until they get the money that they want for it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same kind of mentality. If you're working with someone, they don't have your best interests at heart. They have their own interests at heart. But anyway, I think we've kind of gotten sidetracked.
We can have more about this.
We have, but it's been a fun show. It's been a really good show, lengthy. But want to thank Mark for joining us and giving us some of that insight from the Apple Juice Club. I'm sorry, my bad. Sorry, I mean
why? I don't know why he didn't have apple juice while he was here. I was hoping he'd be drinking some apple juice.
Come on.
If I know,
encourage to drink apple juice
without some apple sauce, and be like, no.
It takes courage to eat applesauce.
But we've come to the point where we talk about what we have in our channels and what we can expect next week. So, Mark, can you tell us what people can check out on your channel and what you also be putting out next week on your channel?
So I'm trying to upload a video now, but YouTube, it's having
exactly. It's having issues, right?
But the next video I'm going to be doing today is going to be actually 10 things that I love and hate about the iPhone 10. So it'll fit in right in perfect with this show. So go check that out. Soldier Knows Best on YouTube, and all my social media, you can find that in one of my videos.
Okay, cool. All right, Mr. Warren Bowman.
What are we doing?
You just heard Soldier say what he's putting up next on his channel. Jesus Christ. Save me, Lord. Why?
I wasn't paying attention. It just kind of bleeped out of my mind fast. I'm hungry, man. Leave me alone.
Go back. Juan, please. Can you tell us?
Well, we've got a couple things coming up on Pocket now. We're just now cracking into our Galaxy Note comparisons, so be on the lookout for those. We have our real camera review out for the Note 8 if you want to get a sense of what this new dual camera sensor is going to deliver. We'll have to update it again when the update drops for 4K 60 frame per second video is finally pushed to my phone, so that'll be fun. For Gadget Guy, we're gonna have it's not gonna be for another 2 weeks, but in 2 weeks we'll have the next Geek Book Club, and then on VidMe I just uploaded our review. We recovered the review of The King of Kong, that quirky documentary about Donkey Kong.
I've seen that.
Competitors.
Fistful of Quarters.
Yeah, Fistful of Quarters is a really fun movie to talk about. So that's over on vid.
What hair did you have, Juan?
Oh, so it wasn't slicked back for that one. It was a little bushier.
In case you guys didn't know, Juan used to have long hair.
Juan still has hair. He still has a lot of hair. He just hides it. You know, I mean, come on.
I'm talking about long hair. It's like coming down.
What's great about the first year of movies you may have missed, I think my hairstyle changes every episode. Like, I don't think I have 2 episodes where it's the same. So,
man, who's your stylist, man? It must have been very.
It was me. That's why it was terrible.
They're like, we're allocating 75% of our budget to just one thing, but like one's like, dude, you got to get new hairstyles every show, man. New hairstyle, come on.
Mandatory. That's in my writer. That's a part of my contract.
All right, and Sam, how about you?
I'll let you take it away. See how I just did that? That was amazing, right? That was totally amazing.
I mean, okay, Sam is part of the Booredatwork network, and
I was wondering why you ask him every week.
No, because he still has like 2 videos he should me.
Okay, all right.
You should know.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Sam did lay his thoughts on the Galaxy Note 8 and our Galaxy Note 8 review. Actually, have my thoughts and Sam's thoughts in that review. I love the camera. I prefer this camera over the V30. I'll say it before I even drop my V30 review. Yes, I do. I mean, in terms of taking photos, V30 photos, I just don't like it. I really don't.
Is it both Pro mode and just right out the box? Sorry, I'm just like curious.
Both. Now, in terms of video, V30 is king. It's king. Until 4K 60 frames, I want to see how that looks like.
Yeah, most people started getting that update a couple days ago.
I haven't done it yet. And then we have our iPhone stuff, our first look. We did a quick battle vid, just comparing it with the Galaxy Note 8. And of course, we try to inform you that $84 will be coming out of your pocket if you buy an iPhone X or iPhone 8 Plus if you want to get that fast charging in there. So, you might as well just contact Soldier, who'll cover the cost for you.
This is why we don't get to talk to him very often, guys.
No, that's not true. That is not true. Soldier's like, I'm out of here, man.
Yeah, his screen just slowly fades away.
Smoke bomb.
Like, get out of all these Android X out.
He's like, I walked into a venue and all of a sudden,
and my iPhone 10 notch on there.
Hey, next time I want to show, I'm gonna have a webcam with a freaking notch on the top.
Yeah.
That's how everyone's gonna be watching the video.
Yeah.
Out of 10.
We will have another video coming up, I think, tomorrow. I have to edit some stuff, but 5 things that I don't like about the iPhone X, not 10. I'm surprised you actually have 10. So that's very interesting. I definitely love to check that out. And then we'll have some home automated stuff next week on the channel. So I want to say thank you very much, guys, for watching. It's been fun. Thank you for chiming in the chat. We didn't get a chance to answer a lot of questions because we had a lot of stuff to talk about, especially with the iPhone. You can check out all the channels, starting with Mr. Mark, aka Soldier Knows Best. His channel is Soldier Knows Best on YouTube. You can follow him on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all Soldier Knows Best. Make sure you follow him there and also hit that notification icon when you subscribe to his YouTube channel. And of course, you can check out Mr. Warren Bowman from BW1.com. That is also
stuff.
Yes, exactly. He didn't say anything before, but he has stuff on his channel.
I have a rant if you want to watch that.
That would have been the appropriate time to plug your rant, dude.
I didn't know what question we were asking. I was lost for about 30 seconds. Okay, can I be lost for 30 seconds?
He was hungry. He was hungry.
There wasn't a Snickers in front of me, so I had to wait.
But yeah, you can check him out on YouTube, on all social media. It's all BW1.com. And then, of course, Mr. Juan Carlos Bagnell is part of the Pocket Now crew. He can find his videos at pocketnow.com. And also his personal channel is Some Gadget Guy. It's Some Gadget Guy on Twitter, YouTube, and VidMe. It is Juan Bagnell, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Well done.
And Sam is Black_Iron_man, aka the other guy I bought at work, whose videos we're still waiting for.
That is just such a lackluster way to even address the Black Iron Man in the room, but it's all right.
I mean, sorry, man.
Yeah. You see how I avoided the whole discussion about the the video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, he's part of Booredatwork Network, and you can also follow us on Booredatwork. It is Booredatwork on Twitter, YouTube, all social media networks. It's the same handle. Definitely subscribe to all the channels. Hit the notification icon. Thank you very much, and always enjoy your entertainment.